Item C, consideration of hiring a P&Z officer, and that name right now is Dean Carnop. I would like to have a discussion, or I would like to have a motion to hire Dean Carnop as the P&Z officer. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to have some discussion about this. I mean, I know, I guess the last meeting that I missed, I'm pretty much the hot topic of what's going on with this here decision lately. But I know that we put out, you know, earlier back in January or something, we put out to find an additional one, and in the interim we've elected Terry Duffy. But I'd like to ask the council that did vote, the four that did vote, and while I was absent, a couple questions. I mean, what true advantages for, you know, the two that voted for Dean, is it as him as the planning and zoning officer, as opposed to Terry? What advantages would Dean bring as opposed to electing Terry?
One thing that I would consider an advantage is, okay, Terry's an employee of the city, and I think it would just look better if we could have some of those functions separate from people that are already employees of the city. I think Terry would do an excellent job, but I think some more input from other than city employees would be welcome, and certainly I'd be comfortable with Terry, you know, too, as far as what he could do, but I would like to bring some new blood into it.
I got the same input I had too, that you get that from the citizens, that it's all a closed network. And when they opened up, and Dean's very capable in construction most of his life, and we had 3 applicants, 4 applicants, and one did not choose to deal. We had planning and zoning representative Jerry Ewell doing the interviews.
I guess I have a problem with distinguishing between city employees and non-city employees. I mean, he applied as a citizen just like anybody else did, so I don't know why, and as far as I'm concerned, he is the most qualified for the position. He's been doing it for 4 months, doing it on his own time, and has done an excellent job. I don't think he should be punished because he's a city employee, because I believe he is the most qualified.
The problem
Change is good, but it's not always good in all instances.
It's not a big problem, but what I looked at is I did not like the idea that we had somebody that had his own construction business in charge of the P&Z officer.
Who has his own construction business?
But he was in construction.
No, he works for Howard Activity, their maintenance man.
That one? I thought he did some construction too.
He did it. He did it one time.
That's right.
His own business, but
I didn't realize he was
right.
with Howard, because that was what I was looking at, was just the fact that he had construction. Yes, he has the knowledge there. I just.
And Terry is aware that if he is elected, that this is not on city time, correct? I mean, this is something that these wages that are being paid are in addition to.
Well, when I
his
got my city
responsibility.
permit from Mr. Lynch, I had to go down to the water plant to get it. He says he didn't during business time. And Chad and what you call it, same way. Jeff was the same way. You couldn't do it. Had to do it right down to City Hall. He wouldn't go out and do nothing.
In the interview process, though, Terry did say he would do that on his own time and not on city time, so he would do it after hours, and we specifically asked him that question, and he was quite clear that he would do it on non-city time.
And so the expectations were set clear.
Yes, and he very extensively, or ostensibly agreed to that.
Bob?
I, as a bystander, I see one advantage. They're both very well qualified. I see one advantage to Terry. If something would come up during the day, like the hospital expansion and or Parkview, or even a residential, but something comes up, he would be readily available to go on a situation. Dean, if he has to do it on his time, it might be 4 in the afternoon or whenever he gets off. As an exception, as to once in a while, the advantage of having Terry, he could go do it, handle it, and probably part of the time it would be city required function, like saying, making a sewer tap, make sure it's right or something. You would have the advantage of him being there, minimal time, I'm not saying he needs to dwell on it for 3 hours or whatever, but a minimal time to yay, nay, something, there would be an advantage there to Terry over maybe with Dean.
We asked that question to Dean, and he's cleared it with his boss. He can get off anytime.
Okay, well then, strike what I said.
Now, back in January, we also discussed the wages at that point in time were $350 a month, and then the administrator, Jeff Figgenshoe, elected to do it for $250 a month on city time. Do we feel that if Terry did do it, was elected, and he had to do it on city time, could we kind of go under the same agreement that Jeff had? If it requires him to do some of that on city time, do the same thing as $250?
I think that's something probably you would have to ask him. I guess
Do
another
you
thing.
guys, would it take city time? Is it going to require a lot of it, or is Bob right, it will be minimal?
I think sometimes you're going to get into the question as to whether the zoning officer is going to have to call a city employee out anyway, knowing where city utilities are. We've run into street issues with private streets and all this kind of stuff in the past. I mean, you could be doubling up effort here.
You know, do the city employees have comp time such that if Terry needed to take time off during the day, he could use his comp time for that?
I guess another thing, with the new city administrator coming on, that I don't believe has a lot of experience in planning and zoning, having somebody that at least has got a little experience, I think would be a big help to our new city administrator too.
Is there any further discussion?
Bob, would it make your job easier working, let's say, with Terry, who knows, quite a bit about the city, goings on with, like you say, all the utilities and so on?
As to a situation arising during the day or something?
Correct, during the day, and also, his knowledge of everything that goes on with the city.
Like I said, both men are very qualified, and Terry, we work together. If something happened or something came up, I had a question asked me, I could, either cell phone or the radio, matter of minutes, either have an answer or be dealing with it. Yeah, I think it'd be helpful. Like Shirley said, there's times that, the city a lot of times is involved in a zoning situation problem, and I'm not saying that Dean isn't qualified or that can't do it, but then he would have to come out, then in turn, find Terry or myself.
Is there any further discussion? Is anyone ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Terry Duffy.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Call for a vote.
Councilman Johnston?
Yes.
Mufka?
Yes.
Rennie?
Yes.
Frederick?
No.
Hanson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
I would like to check into that situation, if he's going to be using some of his own time, that salary.
I would just soon have him do it on his own time.
I would too, and I think he would do that, because he actually spends more time than what he's actually being paid for, as far as I'm concerned. What little time it take him if he had to during the daytime, would not interfere with him at all.
He agreed.
Yes.
Yeah, I know he did, but there are times, like Bob said, though, that there are things that pop up that he might get called anyway, and if he's already there, he can handle it while he's there.